Story 1. After Grandma Evelyn passed, I found her antique photo album. Leather-bound, dusty, it felt heavy, a relic of generations now mine. I eagerly opened it, poring over pages of stern ancestors and faded sepia, a treasure trove tracing my lineage, a comforting connection. Hours passed identifying relatives, each face told a silent tale, glimpses into lives long gone, even my young parents, so many memories. The album chronicled our family's journey. I felt deep peace, a quiet joy. I carefully closed it, planning to revisit soon. I placed the cherished heirloom on my bookshelf. My initial viewing was full of warmth, a gentle introduction to my family's history. Weeks later, I pulled the album out again. I wanted to scrutinize older photos to catch details I might have missed initially. This time, something felt different. Great-great-grandfather Elias's expression seemed subtly blurred, a faint tremor. Was it imagination? I blinked, rationalizing old photo imperfections. I dismissed the unease, telling myself I was tired, but the image lingered. Then, a 1920s group portrait. Great-Aunt Beatrice, usually smiling, now had a fleeting shadow, a hint of sorrow, unmistakable. Her eyes, they seemed to follow me for a split second. A trick of light, I hoped, but a cold shiver ran down my spine. Subtle shifts continued, a cousin's smile too wide, forced. A child's gaze, once innocent, now held fear, the album unsettling. Was I imagining things, grief playing tricks? A cold knot of dread formed. This wasn't normal, I knew. My mind reeled. I swore a mouth twitched in an early 20th century wedding photo. A fractional movement gone too fast. My heart pounded. The room felt colder, air thicker. Nostalgia vanished, replaced by dread. The album no longer cherished, but sinister. I slammed the album shut, hands trembling. This wasn't fading. Something was happening. This was just the beginning. I couldn't stay away. Next day, I reopened it. Shifts were undeniable, more pronounced, more disturbing than before. Serene faces now bore distress. Great-grandmother Eleanor, gentle smile, now had a painful contortion around her lips. Her mouth slightly agape, not a smile, but a grimace, as if trying to scream, but no sound escaped the pages. Great-uncle Arthur's eyes, once kind, unnaturally wide, filled with unspoken terror, they chilled me, unblinking. Entire groups showed it. A jovial picnic scene now depicted collective suffering, smiles replaced by strained expressions. I felt intense presence, tormented souls staring. Their silent pleas echoed. The album was breathing, living, suffering. Some faces aged prematurely, anguish lines appearing, like time accelerated, but only for their profound pain. A child's innocent face distorted, almost monstrous. Sweet dimples became unnatural indentations, pulling features grotesque. The room grew heavy with despair. Silence, now an oppressive void, filled with unheard screams from the pages. No denying it, not illusions. The album was changing, horror within intensified, becoming terrifyingly real. I began cross-referencing. Distorted faces, locked in screams, belonged to family linked to tragedy. A pattern emerged. Great-great-uncle Sila's, a mask of terror, vanished in the 1890s. His photo mirrored his unknown, agonizing end. A young cousin died mysteriously, looked sickly, eyes sunken, mouth gasping, her final struggle captured forever. Aunt Martha perished in accident, photo showed sheer panic, her body recoiled from an unseen, violent force. A cyclical tragedy, a dark thread through generations. The album preserved their final, agonizing moments, their suffering. The album, a silent witness, a grim repository of my family's cursed history. It held their pain, terror, unheard cries. This knowledge weighed on me, a crushing burden. Every admired face now held a hidden horror. My world shifted. Contortions grew grotesque, explicit. Silent screams no longer subtle, they were undeniable, horrifying agony. Images trapped, endlessly reliving terror. I almost heard their silent shrieks, a symphony of torment. The album, a conduit into suffering transcending time. No longer memories, but a living testament to despair. Then horror crept closer. I turned a page, my own parents' wedding photo, their smiles subtly strained, ominous. Mother's gentle eyes, once joyful, held Aunt Martha's fear. Her smile stiff, unnatural, a rictus of hidden pain. Father's jovial expression marred by a faint grimace. Lips spoke volumes of unspoken, chilling premonition. Most terrifying, a recent photo of Grandma Evelyn months before passing. Her face began the same silent scream. Her mouth slightly open, eyes wide with terror. The curse hadn't ended, it was active, manifesting through her final image. The album, not past tragedies, but a living manifestation of an ancient family curse. A warning, tragedy poised to strike. Frantically, I flipped blank pages, half expecting my own face, contorted, screaming. The thought made my blood run cold. This wasn't history, it was my future, inescapable horror, a legacy of suffering. I was trapped, a link in endless pain. Panic seized me, I had to destroy it, stop this evil. I grabbed the album, hands shaking violently, desperation. But it felt impossibly heavy, like lead. It resisted my grip, rooted to the table. I strained, but it wouldn't budge. I tried to tear a page, rip the images, but the paper was impossibly thick, resilient. It wouldn't yield. The torment within refused to be silenced. It clung to the pages, to the leather. It wanted to be seen, to perpetuate. I collapsed, exhausted, defeated, beside the cursed album. It lay open, silent screams echoing, a perpetual reminder. Now I watch living faces, friends, relatives, strangers. Every smile, every laugh holds a hidden fragility. I wonder whose turn is next, whose face will contort. The album is closed, but its horror lives on, an endless legacy. Story 2, I'm a passionate chef. This happened to me. I inherited my grandmother's ancient, cryptic recipe book, determined to recreate the legendary ambrosia of the ancestors, a dish known for its uniquely addictive flavor. Grandma always hinted at a secret ingredient for ambrosia's unique taste. I wanted to honor her legacy and unravel the mystery of this cherished family secret, convinced it was a culinary masterpiece. My kitchen became a laboratory. I spent weeks translating the faded script, sourcing exotic spices and rare herbs. The initial instructions were complex but seemed harmless, promising an extraordinary feast. The recipe detailed an intricate process, slow roasting, precise measurements, specific moon phases. It felt more like alchemy than cooking, but I was committed to mastering this unique family tradition. The aroma from my first attempt was intoxicating, otherworldly. It promised a flavor transcending ordinary cuisine. I believed I was on the cusp of a culinary masterpiece, a true ancestral connection. My first attempts were good but lacked the legendary kick. That elusive, primal satisfaction was missing. I reread the book, searching for the overlooked element, a growing unease in my gut. I discovered hidden pages tucked between the binding, almost invisible. They were written in a different, archaic script, the ink almost blood red. This felt like a true, disturbing secret. The new instructions were unsettling. They spoke of unidentified ingredients, methods less culinary, more sacrificial. Living essence, bone meal, and ancient salts were mentioned, raising my suspicions. Some phrases were chillingly vague, hinting at the ultimate sacrifice. I dismissed it as metaphor, but a knot of dread formed. My culinary quest was slowly morphing into something darker. I started researching archaic terms, staying up late. The more I delved, the more unsettling the implications became. My grandmother's legacy felt less savory, more sinister. The book detailed specific harvesting techniques, referring to the offering and the vessel. It was cryptic, macabre. My chef's instincts screamed that something was terribly wrong, deeply wrong. I felt a phantom chill, constantly checking over my shoulder. The ambrosia's intoxicating aroma now carried a faint, almost metallic undertone. It was no longer just a dish, it was a presence. Sleep became elusive, my dreams filled with ancient rituals, shadowy figures, and a haunting, rhythmic chant. The recipe wasn't just in my kitchen, it was seeping into my very mind. The craving for that kick grew intense, a gnawing hunger not for food but for the forbidden, ultimate flavor. It felt less like my desire, more like an inherited, primal impulse. My family's history, once a source of pride, now felt shrouded in a disturbing enigma. What kind of secret could be so deeply hidden, so carefully preserved across generations? I tried to rationalize it, calling it eccentric tradition, but the growing dread in my stomach was impossible to ignore. This was beyond eccentricity, it was something profoundly sinister. Among Grandma's belongings, I found a small wooden box. Inside, nestled on velvet, were antique tools, impossibly sharp knives, a bone saw, and delicate, cruel-looking scalpels. This happened to me. These were not for cooking nor butchering. Their design was precise for a different dissection. A cold dread seeped into my bones. What had Grandma truly been doing all those years? The recipe's instructions became less culinary, more ritualistic. Phrases like purification of the vessel and drawing the lifeblood appeared, chilling me to the core. This was a dark sacrament. I found crude but disturbingly clear sketches. They depicted anatomical diagrams, not of animals but of human figures, with specific points highlighted for extraction and preparation. The ancient salts were described as derived from the earth and the body. I suspected they weren't mineral salts. The implications were too horrifying to fully grasp, too vile. I remembered Grandma's stories of the family's strength, how our blood runs rich. I'd thought it was pride. Now it echoed with a sinister, literal, and deeply unsettling meaning. The living essence ingredient was increasingly emphasized. The cryptic text described it as vital, the very soul of the dish, harvested in a specific, brutal manner. My heart pounded with fear. I felt a terrible pressure, an ancestral pull to continue, to understand. The allure of the ambrosia was a siren song, promising a truth I wasn't sure I wanted to discover. The sheer intricacy of the process, the careful preservation of these horrifying instructions, suggested not madness but a deeply ingrained, generations-old tradition. This was no isolated incident. I started having vivid nightmares of my grandmother, not as the loving figure I remembered, but as a silent, watchful presence, her eyes holding an unspeakable secret. This was a true haunting. Every ingredient I now handled felt tainted. The spices, the herbs, even the water. They were all part of a larger, more sinister puzzle, waiting for the final, gruesome piece. The quiet hum of my kitchen appliances was replaced by an imagined whisper, a faint, ancient voice urging me onward. The recipe was calling, demanding completion, consuming my thoughts. Through obsessive research, I finally translated the archaic phrases. Living essence was no metaphor. It referred to the life force, the very soul of a human being. My blood ran cold. Bone meal was not from animals. The sketches, specific types, femur, rib, skull fragments confirmed it was human bone, carefully processed. My stomach churned with profound revulsion. The ancient salts were indeed from the body, purified and preserved. They were described as enhancing flavor, binding the essence. The sheer depravity of it all was overwhelming, sickening. The harvesting techniques I dismissed as poetic now revealed themselves as detailed instructions for dismemberment and extraction. The tools from Grandma's box made horrific, chilling sense. I pieced together the fragments. The ultimate sacrifice meant a human life. Ambrosia of the ancestors was a dish of human flesh and essence, a cannibalistic ritual disguised as haute cuisine. The addictive flavor wasn't just culinary brilliance, it was the primal, forbidden taste of human life itself, a taste that enslaved generations. This was a truth I could never unknow. I felt sick to my core. My ancestors, whom I had revered, were monsters. My grandmother, the sweet old lady, had perpetuated this unspeakable tradition. I was living a waking nightmare. The weight of generations of dark secrets pressed down on me. This wasn't just a recipe, it was a legacy of horror, a bloodline steeped in cannibalism. I felt utterly trapped. The horrifying truth dawned. My ancestors were not just chefs, but practitioners of a dark, cannibalistic tradition. They had preserved this gruesome recipe through generations, a culinary abomination. And I was next in line. The realization hit me like a physical blow. I, the passionate young chef, was meant to continue this vile tradition, to become another link in their chain of horrors. The ambrosia was more than a dish. It was a sacrament, a dark communion. Each generation, a new chef, a new victim, a new offering to sate an ancient, unnatural hunger. The addictive flavor wasn't just a taste, it was a curse, a craving passed down genetically, waiting for the right moment, the right chef to awaken. It was awakening in me. I felt a chilling, inherited craving, a deep-seated urge to taste the true, forbidden flavor. It was a hunger not mine, yet it coursed through my veins, whispering promises of ultimate satisfaction. Standing over the almost finished dish, its intoxicating aroma filling my kitchen, I faced an internal battle. Profound revulsion warred with that chilling, inherited craving. The scent was hypnotic, drawing me closer. It promised power, understanding, a dark connection to my lineage. My hand trembled, reaching for a spoon, a fateful decision looming. Every fiber of my being screamed to destroy it, to end this monstrous legacy. But another part, a primal, ancient part, yearned for just one taste, to know the ultimate secret. I could feel the ancestors watching, their silent judgments pressing down. This was my initiation, my choice, to succumb to their dark path or to bravely break the chain. My hand closed around the spoon, my heart pounding. The aroma intensified, a sweet, metallic invitation. This was the moment of truth. I had to decide my fate and my family's future. With a guttural cry, I shattered the serving dish, scattering the vile ambrosia across the floor. Then, I tore every page from that cursed book, burning them one by one in the sink. I destroyed the tools, melted the ancient salts, purified every surface. But the knowledge, the lingering craving, and the terrifying glimpse into my family's dark legacy forever changed me. This was my truth. I can never look at food or my heritage the same way again. The ambrosia is gone, but its bitter taste, the taste of unspeakable human sacrifice, lingers forever in my mind. I am haunted by the craving, by the knowledge of what my family truly was. The silence in my kitchen now feels heavier, filled with ghosts. The recipe is destroyed, but the hunger remains. Story 3. Mark and I moved into my ancestral family home, a beautiful old Victorian. We sought a fresh start, a connection to my roots. Initial excitement mixed with the weight of its long history. This happened to me. The house felt like a living entity from the start, a silent witness to generations. I felt a deep, almost spiritual pull, while Mark seemed more overwhelmed by its sheer age. Unpacking, we felt a constant, subtle presence, a faint whisper easily dismissed as the wind, a feeling of being watched from the shadows, just the quirks of an old house, we told ourselves. Our first night, the house creaked and groaned. Every sound was amplified, echoing through the empty rooms. Mark held me close, but even his presence couldn't quell the rising unease I felt. I admired the antique furniture, each piece a silent storyteller. My great-grandmother's vanity, the grandfather clock in the hall, they brought a sense of belonging despite the unsettling atmosphere. We discussed our plans, our dreams for a fresh start, renovations, modernizing the kitchen. The house seemed to listen, its silence heavier, almost disapproving as we spoke of change. Then the minor oddities began. A door I distinctly remembered closing was left ajar. I'd blame Mark, he'd blame me, but neither of us could recall opening it. Mark would dismiss it, attributing it to drafts or our imagination. "It's an old house, love," he'd say, but I saw the flicker of doubt in his eyes, mirroring my own growing concern. Faint whispers would drift from empty rooms like distant conversations. I'd strain to hear, but they'd vanish the moment I focused, leaving only a chilling silence in their wake. That unsettling feeling of being watched became a constant companion. A prickle on my neck, a sense of eyes following my every move, even when completely alone. Small objects would move, a teacup from the kitchen counter to the living room table, my reading glasses from my bedside table to the floor, tiny shifts but undeniably deliberate. Mark and I exchanged a shared glance one evening. A flicker of raw unease passed between us. The house was playing games, and we were beginning to realize it. Then the architecture itself began to subtly change. The hallway to our master bedroom seemed longer, stretching out into an impossible distance, defying logic. I measured it twice, each time a different result. I dismissed it as poor memory, my mind playing tricks, but the unease persisted, a cold knot in my stomach. A familiar window in the living room was suddenly a few inches lower, just enough to be noticeable, to feel subtly wrong, like the house was breathing, shifting around us. Mark noticed a picture frame slightly askew on the wall, but when he tried to straighten it, it was perfectly level. He stared at it, bewildered, then at me, fear in his eyes. We found ourselves disoriented in familiar rooms. A fleeting sense of wrongness, as if the doorways had moved or the furniture had rearranged itself when we weren't looking. We started making nervous jokes about the house settling too much. The humor felt forced, a desperate attempt to normalize the increasingly abnormal reality we were facing. Our first major argument erupted over renovating the kitchen. Mark wanted modern, I wanted to preserve its history. The house seemed to vibrate with our discord, a palpable tension. The kitchen wall we planned to remove, once seemingly thin, now felt impossibly thick. We tapped it. It sounded solid, not hollow like concrete, defying our earlier assessment. Mark tried to force a drill into it, but it wouldn't even penetrate. The wall felt like living rock, resisting his efforts, vibrating subtly beneath his touch, humming with unseen energy. The next morning, a new, small, unused pantry had appeared off the kitchen. It wasn't there yesterday. It was perfectly integrated, yet utterly alien, an impossible addition. We stared at it, disbelieving, our minds reeling. No plans, no construction, just a new room, solid and real. It was a physical manifestation of the house's malevolence. A shared terror gripped us. This wasn't normal. This wasn't old house quirks. This was deliberate, malicious, and undeniably supernatural. We were trapped in a living nightmare. The guest bedroom, where my grandmother's antique dresser stood, was gone. In its place, a dusty, cobweb-filled storage closet, smelling of decay. Her dresser was nowhere to be found. Panic set in. We searched frantically, screaming each other's names, desperate for an explanation. There was no other guest room. The house had swallowed it whole. Mark swore the study door was always on the left. Now it was undeniably on the right. Every turn was a gamble, every familiar path a potential dead end. We got lost navigating to the bathroom, taking wrong turns in our own home. The layout felt like a cruel joke, constantly shifting, impossible to map or comprehend. The house was a maze, its walls breathing, its corridors twisting. We were disoriented, our sense of reality fracturing under the relentless, malevolent manipulation. We clung to each other, our only anchor in this shifting nightmare. The house seemed to mock our disorientation, its silence heavy with an unseen, triumphant presence. We decided to leave, packed essentials, a desperate resolve in our eyes. This wasn't a home, it was a prison. We had to escape its ever-changing embrace. The driveway seemed impossibly long, the car further away with each step. It felt like walking on a treadmill, the distance never closing, the exit always out of reach. Our car keys vanished from their hook. We searched for hours, frantically tearing the house apart. They were simply gone, absorbed by the hungry walls, another escape thwarted. Phone signals dropped to zero. No internet, no connection to the outside world. The house had severed us, isolating us completely within its malevolent grasp. Mark tried to force the front door open. It jammed, felt like it was sealed from within, the wood morphing, melding with the frame. The house actively fought our attempts. We began to question our sanity, accusing each other of hiding things, of losing our minds. The house thrived on our discord, feeding on our fear and confusion. Desperate, we returned to the kitchen, remembering the new pantry. There had to be a way out, a secret passage, something the house didn't want us to find. Behind the pantry, a faint outline of a brick-top fireplace. It wasn't there before. A cold draft emanated from it, beckoning us closer, promising a hidden truth. Mark began to pry open the bricks, a strange resistance like tearing flesh. Groaning sounds echoed from deep within the walls, the house protesting our intrusion. A section of brick gave way, revealing a hidden compartment. The air inside was stale, ancient, carrying the scent of dust and forgotten secrets. Our hearts pounded. Inside, a brittle, leather-bound journal. My great-great-grandmother's elegant handwriting filled the pages. Her entries detailed similar experiences, the house's true nature. The journal spoke of the house's malevolent sentience, its living bones. It described how the house fed on family arguments, growing stronger, manipulating lives through its architecture. As I read, the walls around us visibly shifted and contorted. The house was alive, fighting back, sealing us deeper within its terrifying, organic embrace. This was its true form. A terrifying display of the house's true, organic nature. Walls pulsed and grew, new passageways forming, old ones sealing. We were witnessing its living bones in horrifying detail. We were irrevocably trapped. The realization crushed us, stealing our breath, our fight. The house had won. Its malevolent will had absorbed our futile attempts at escape. Our will broken, our spirits hollowed. We were merely extensions of its ancient, hungry structure now. Resigned to our fate, we stopped fighting, stopped resisting the inevitable. New walls slowly grew, sealing off familiar paths, absorbing furniture into their shifting mass. The house was remaking itself with us as its permanent living fixtures. We wandered aimlessly, shadows of our former selves, part of the house's ever-changing internal landscape. Our memories faded, replaced by the house's ancient consciousness. The house continued its subtle manipulations, guiding us to new, unknown rooms deeper into its core. We were extensions of its will, its consciousness flowing through our veins. We are its living history now, destined to haunt its halls like the ancestors before us, whispering our story to the walls, forever part of the family home's living bones. This is our eternal prison. Story 4. Life with my 7-year-old Lily felt quiet. we decided to visit the local shelter, hoping a new pet would bring warmth and companionship to our small home. That's when we saw it, a sleek black cat with eyes like polished jade. It sat apart, unnervingly still, almost as if it were waiting for us specifically. The shelter volunteer mentioned its unusual quietness. "Midnight," she said, "has been here a while, very docile." Lily was instantly smitten, enchanted by its intense gaze. I felt a flicker of unease, a coldness emanating from those ancient eyes. But Lily's joy was infectious, and I brushed it off as my overprotective nature. We adopted Midnight that very day. The cat didn't purr or meow, just watched us with those unblinking green eyes as we drove home. Our new family pet settled in quickly, yet never truly settled. It moved silently, a shadow gliding through the house, always observing. Midnight was docile, yes, but its silence was unnerving. The lack of typical cat sounds, the absence of playfulness, it all contributed to a growing unease. Its deep green eyes seemed to follow our every move. I'd turn around and find Midnight staring, unblinking, from a doorway or a shelf. A subtle sense of being watched permeated our home. It wasn't just my imagination, the air itself felt heavy with Midnight's silent presence. Midnight spent most of its time in Lily's room. I found it odd, but attributed it to the cat bonding with its new favorite human. But the bond became too intense, almost possessive. Lily started spending all her free time with Midnight, shunning her usual games and friends. Lily, once so bright and outgoing, became withdrawn. Her laughter lessened, replaced by a quiet, almost secretive demeanor. This happened so gradually. Then came the whispers, soft, guttural sounds I couldn't understand. Lily was speaking to Midnight in a language utterly alien to me. I'd pass her door and hear strange clicks and hisses, like stones grinding together, coming from Lily's room. It sent shivers down my spine. When I asked, Lily would simply say, "Midnight understands." Her eyes, usually so full of childlike wonder, seemed distant, almost glazed. I tried to get her to talk about it, but she'd clam up, her small hand protectively stroking Midnight's sleek fur. It was like she was guarding a secret. One morning, I noticed faint, thin scratches on Lily's arm, not deep, but too deliberate to be accidental. She said she didn't know how they got there. The scratches continued to appear, sometimes on her legs, sometimes her neck, always thin, almost surgical. Midnight was always nearby. I started seeing Midnight's eyes glow, not reflecting light, but emitting a faint green luminescence in the dimness of Lily's room. It was an unnatural intelligence, a knowing gaze that chilled me to the bone. This was no ordinary cat, I knew it deep in my mother's heart. Fear, cold and sharp, began to grip me. I started researching. What kind of cat behaves like this? What ancient languages sound like clicks and hisses? My searches led me down dark rabbit holes, forgotten folklore, obscure legends, tales of creatures far older than recorded history. I found chilling accounts of parasitic entities, not ghosts, but something physical yet ethereal that could attach to families. These entities were said to feed on innocence, on youthful energy, slowly hollowing out their hosts. The description matched Midnight perfectly. They were passed down through generations, sometimes dormant, sometimes awakening when the conditions were right. A new, vulnerable family. My blood ran cold, the ancient green eyes, the silent watchfulness, Lily's withdrawal, the strange language, the scratches. It was all clicking into place. This wasn't a pet, this was something ancient, something malevolent that had found its way into our home, into my daughter's life. My mother's instinct screamed at me. I had to protect Lily, no matter what this creature was, no matter how impossible it seemed. One night, a chill colder than any winter draft woke me. A faint, almost imperceptible hum resonated from Lily's room. I crept to her door, pushing it open just a crack. The The sight that met my eyes froze the blood in my veins. Midnight was perched on Lily's chest, its body strangely elongated, its head tilted, almost as if it were drinking something. Lily's eyes were open, vacant, staring blankly at the ceiling. Her lips moved, whispering those ancient, guttural words I'd come to dread. A faint, silvery mist seemed to rise from Lily's mouth, swirling towards Midnight. The cat's eyes glowed with an intensified, malevolent green. In a terrifying flash, Midnight looked directly at me. Its eyes, ancient and knowing, communicated a chilling message. Lily was its. Pure, unadulterated terror, laced with a mother's fierce rage, surged through me. I burst into the room, screaming. I lunged, grabbing Midnight, intending to throw it out. But the cat was impossibly strong, its fur like iron, its claws like razors. Lily, still vacant-eyed, began to struggle against me, trying to protect Midnight. Her small hands pushed me away with unnatural force. This wasn't my daughter, this was the entity, using her as a shield. The realization fueled my desperate strength. I wrestled Midnight, its body writhing, hissing, scratching. I didn't care about the pain, I just needed to get it away from Lily. Finally, with a guttural scream of my own, I ripped Midnight from Lily's grasp. Its eyes burned into mine, promising retribution. I ran, Midnight thrashing in my arms, through the house, throwing open the back door. I hurled the creature into the darkness. It landed with a soft thud, then vanished into the night. I slammed the door shut, my heart hammering, tears streaming down my face. I rushed back to Lily. She was still vacant, a hollowed shell of my vibrant daughter. My precious girl was gone. Weeks passed, Lily slowly returned, but she was different, quieter, distant. Sometimes I'd still hear her whisper those ancient words. The doctors found nothing, attributing her changes to trauma. They didn't see the shadow in her eyes, the lingering echo of what had been there. I live with the constant, terrifying fear. I check the locks compulsively, scan the darkness outside our windows every night. I see shadows that aren't there, hear faint rustles in the bushes. I know it's out there, Midnight, the ancient entity. It watches, I feel its ancient eyes on us, waiting for the perfect moment to reclaim what it believes is its own. I'll never forget that night or the horror that Midnight brought. It wasn't just a cat, it was a curse, a legacy of terror. And I know, with a certainty that chills me to my core, that it will return. The family pet's ancient eyes are always watching. Story 5. I've always been a passionate genealogist, unearthing forgotten ancestors. This happened to me beginning with innocent curiosity, a joyful pursuit. My office, filled with charts, felt like a sanctuary. I relished quiet hours, connecting lineage dots, feeling profound connection to my family's vast story. For years, it was a joyful puzzle. I mapped branches, discovered cousins, proud of my meticulous work. The family tree grew vast. My research was thorough, archives, cemeteries, no stone unturned. I believed my history complete. Little did I know, darkness lay hidden. This journey, born from enthusiasm, would lead me down an unanticipated path, into my lineage's darkest corners. I'll never forget that blissful ignorance. It started with an anomaly. A branch, centuries old, seemed deliberately obscured. Names vague, dates incomplete, as if someone tried to erase it. This offshoot presented unsettling gaps. Generations vanished, reappearing with different names. An inconsistent narrative, a clear attempt to hide something. My meticulous nature bristled. Other branches were detailed. This felt empty. Why hide one's family? The question gnawed, unsettling my peace. The more I looked, the more pronounced the obfuscation, not just missing data, but actively suppressed. Records gone. This was intentional. This specific lineage, short but significant, felt like a gaping wound. It beckoned, a mystery demanding solution, pulling me into shadowy depths. My confusion morphed into unease. Trying to fill gaps, I hit dead ends. Local archives had no trace. It was baffling, deeply frustrating. Distant relatives became strangely silent or dismissive. Aunts changed subject, uncles cleared throats. Their reactions were telling, hinting at hidden truth. "Some things are best left undisturbed," my great-aunt mumbled, eyes wide. Her words sent shivers. This was forbidden history. The more I probed, the more I felt an invisible wall. An unseen force prevented access, guarding this secret. Unease solidified into worry. Quiet hours now felt heavy with warnings, discovery's thrill replaced by dread. I knew I was treading dangerous ground, but I couldn't stop. My obsession intensified. I couldn't let it go. This was no longer genealogy, it was a quest for hidden truth. I dug deeper. I scoured forgotten history books, obscure church records. My search became relentless, consuming every waking moment. Sleep felt like a waste. Then, a breakthrough in my grandmother's keepsakes, a tattered, leather-bound diary. Many pages damaged or ripped, but some remained. A censored entry spoke of the shadow that follows, the price paid in blood, handwriting frantic, ending abruptly. My heart pounded. In an old 1903 letter, the inheritance demands its due. Not money. Context suggested something sinister, a legacy of dread. I researched local folklore. Whispers tied my family name to misfortunes, disappearances, illnesses, violent deaths. A dark pattern emerged. Pieces slowly formed a mosaic of horror. This wasn't forgotten, it was severed, hiding a festering wound. The truth was darker. Each clue felt like cold breath. Air in my office grew heavy, charged with unseen presence. I was an intruder. Fragmented clues added terror. Like a horror story through torn pages, each snippet frightened, never fully revealed the monster. My sanity felt stretched, teetering, line between reality and spectral blurred. I was agonizingly close to understanding the horror. As I drew nearer, disturbances began, subtle then bolder, whispers indistinct from documents, pages rustling without breeze. I'd leave my office, return to find objects rearranged. A book moved, a pen misplaced, unnerving, a malevolent intelligence. Air in my home grew colder, especially near my research. A bone-deep chill no thermostat alleviated, it felt internal. A constant, chilling presence lingered, weight in corners, sensation of being watched, always there, lurking, observing. Sleep became luxury, nightmares plagued me, vivid, terrifying, with shadowy figures. I'd wake in cold sweat, images lingering. Electricity flickered erratically, lights dimmed, screens glitched. My computer once crashed, deleting hours. It felt targeted. I heard my name whispered, barely audible when alone. Soft, sibilant, I'd spin around, no one there, nerves frayed. Scent of ancient earth and decay filled my home, then vanished. An olfactory assault, a spectral warning. My reflection in mirrors seemed wrong, distorted, another face peering behind. Fleeting glimpse, terrifying, I avoided mirrors. Constant fear, inexplicable occurrences pushed me to brink. Not researching history, living it, past bled into my present. Finally, after weeks of searching, terrifying encounters, the last piece clicked. The full truth unfurled before my horrified eyes. An ancient intergenerational pact. An ancestor, desperate for power or wealth, struck a dark bargain, a horrifying price. The price, slow corruption of soul or body, descent into madness or tragic death. The pact demanded its pound of flesh. The erased branch represented those who suffered most, those who tried to escape or whose lives were consumed. Not a curse, a debt, a living entity feeding on my bloodline's suffering. My family hid it, betrayal was crushing. My discovery had awakened the dormant evil. The pact, stirring, now recognized me. I had broken the silence. A horrifying realization chilled me. I hadn't solved a mystery. I became next in line. The inheritance was mine. The chilling presence solidified, no longer lurking. It was here with me in me, its tendrils intertwined. Inescapable consequences manifested. Cold dread settled deep, a weight on my soul. My meticulous research sealed my fate. No escape, no breaking the pact. I was bound forever to this ancient evil. My life was over. The curse manifested immediately, palpable, inescapable dread. It consumed my life, tainting every moment, joy replaced by terror. Whispers were constant now, clear, mocking, echoing in my mind. They spoke of pact, sacrifices, my suffering. My vibrant world became a muted, terrifying landscape. Colors faded, sounds dulled, replaced by the curse's hum. I was living death. I am left with horrifying knowledge, forever bound to this ancient evil. My research, once pride, became my undoing. My curiosity sealed my fate and perhaps generations unborn. This is my torment. The whispers continue, they will never stop.